Welcome to the Killer Innovation Show, the longest continuously produced podcast in history. Each week, Phil McKinney brings you the insights and strategies to amplify your creativity and innovation skills. Here's your host, Phil McKinney.
Hello and welcome to this week's show. How are you doing? We are still in the bus. We are in the panhandle of Florida, getting ready to start heading up the East Coast. Hopefully this week you've been able to find some time to work on your innovation, having think time. Find that 15 minutes each and every day. Don't hesitate. Remember, do it every day for 30 days. It turns into a habit. Today's topic is looking at the topic of groupthink. Now, what is it that I mean by groupthink? I'll explain that in the main part of the show. But groupthink is when a group comes together, they work together quite well, and everybody thinks alike, gets along, and we just really enjoy working in that group. Now, that's great, but groupthink has a negative. Groupthink kills innovation. You have to be on your guard when it comes to groupthink. Now, before we hop into today's episode, got a favor to ask. Like, follow, and share. Like today's episode, follow us on social media, stay up with us, be part of the community, and share. Share this episode with somebody in your organization or somebody within your social network who you think would benefit from hearing the content. And with that, let's not hesitate. Let's jump right in to this week's episode. Have you ever been part of a group of people that you just really got along with? You almost can finish each other's sentences. You tend to think along the same lines as far as the needs of the customer or the technology you're going to use. Well, I think we've all been there. I've been there. But the question we should be asking ourselves is, are we falling into the mindset of groupthink? Now, what is groupthink? Thinking or making decisions as a group in a way that discourages creativity or individual responsibility. We think as a group. The decisions are a group. We've all heard it. Oh, the executive team made this decision, or the product team made this decision, or marketing made this decision. And it tends to follow pretty rapid decision making where a strong leader has a strong opinion and has rallied everybody to that opinion in order to make the decision quickly. Now, what the problem with groupthink, though, is it can create blind spots that are the result of not listening to dissenting opinions, allowing other people in the group or even outside the group to look at what you're doing and be able to comment and challenge it and push the group to think and not overlook other areas or other opportunities. It does create the biggest risk that I have seen from groupthink is negative outcomes, unintended consequences, things that the group did not think about because they rallied around. Everybody thought alike. Everybody aligned pretty quickly. The decision was made very quickly. It was maybe on a very rapid pace, or there was some external crises that's driving this. But the end result, though, was the fact that there was a decision that was made, and things, challenges, other opinions, getting fresh eyes on it was overlooked. The end result, though, is in groupthink is it tends to lead to negative unintended consequences. Nobody goes off and wants to have something fail, but groupthink you kind of get wrapped up into this rapid decision making. You've got a team that you've had a lot of cohesion. You like these people. You've established certain norms within the team. There's certain behaviors that are expected of the team. There's a lot of harmony. There's a lot of nurturing. And in some cases, that's even enforced as part of a culture. These normal behaviors can turn into a real problem, right? Because look, breakaway ideas, innovations are the new thing, the thing that's different, the thing not like what you've been doing in the past. Those things, those new areas, those creative ideas, those views and opinions of something different, or getting an organization to change direction, is counter to groupthink. And that becomes a real problem. So, what are the symptoms of groupthink? Are there things that you should look for to see, am I part of a group that is suffering from this? So there are 8 symptoms. These were all developed by a psychologist, Irving Janis, back in 1972. So this is not new research. This has been out there for quite some time. I mean, you can go onto Google and just search for groupthink. Typically is all one word, just groupthink. But Janis documents these 8 symptoms of groupthink, and they're quoted by the Psychologist for Social Responsibility. So these are people thinking about, how do you make decisions? How do you make really important decisions that affect society, affect individuals? So what are these 8 symptoms? Number 1, the illusion of invulnerability. Invulnerability, that's the key here. It creates basically excessive optimism that encourages taking extreme risks. Like, we can't be wrong, it's so obvious, we should go for this, all in, put all your chips in. And it's an illusion, because there's always a downside. Number 2, collective rationalization. Members discount warnings and don't reconsider their assumptions, right? Because we can all sit around the table as a group and we can say, oh, that'll never happen because of this. Oh, yeah, you're right. That's never going to happen. And then you rationalize away all the downsides to a particular idea, problem, project, whatever it is. So collective rationalization. It's amazing how a group can come together and rationalize away anything. Number 3, belief in inherent morality. Members believe in the rightness of their cause. They ignore the ethical or moral consequences of their decisions. This is the thing that just really shocks me for some groupthink activities. And this is you can get a group together, you can drive alignment, and that alignment can be socioeconomic, it could be education. There's a whole range you can define groups. But when you get a group together, the group can be steered and moved. And in some cases, they believe that the group is moral. But in reality, those groups, in some cases, make bad decisions. And we can look back at things like what happened in World War II. How do you get a group to all think they're alike and drive groupthink decisions that did immoral things? Number 4, stereotyped views of the out-group. So if someone's not in your group, they're in another group, then you stereotype them. Oh, everybody is an X, Y, or Z. Everybody is an A, B, or C, right? So everybody that's not in your group, then you stereotype, you blanket everybody that's outside, that is in that out group. And look, we do this today. We see it today with the division of political positioning, or your belief on what's taxes, or poverty, or and everybody says, look, my group believes this, and therefore if you're not in my group, then you are this, and you stereotype them. So stereotype view of the outgroups, common example, common characteristic, or a symptom of group thinking. Number 5, direct pressure on dissenters. Members are under pressure not to express arguments against any of the group views. So if you try to come up and be against the group really pounds on that and puts pressure on for you not to dissent. We all have to stay on the same page. We all have to speak with one voice. We all have, and you get a lot of pressure in that groupthink for everybody to be aligned and to do the same thing. And more importantly, say the same thing. And it is a huge challenge. And I'm sure many of us, this is common, bullying activities that we all went through in school, but now we're seeing it in society as a whole. So direct pressure on dissenters. Number 6, self-censorship. With doubts, I'm thinking something different, but I can't say anything. I can't express it. I'm going to self-censor myself, because if I say something, they're going to react. They're going to, shame me. They're going to expose me. They're going to challenge me. They're going to kick me out of this group, and I'm tied in and really plugged into this group. So self-censorship. Number 7, the illusion of unanimity. The view that the majority view is assumed to be unanimous, but it's not unanimous. Very rarely in a group does everybody agree with every position taken by the group. It's not unanimous, but there's this perception that the majority view and the judgments made are assumed to be unanimous. So this is the illusion of unanimity. Number 8, self-appointed mind guards. These are members protect the group and the leader from information that is problematic or contradictory to the group's cohesiveness, the view, decisions. So these are the people that are kind of out there sheltering the group from any negative perceptions, pushing back on outsiders, etc. So let me run through these again. There's 8 of them. These are the symptoms of groupthink. I did not come up with these. These are coming up and were developed by Irving Janis. Remember, back in 1972. So these have been around for a while. Number 1, the illusion of invulnerability. This is the excessive optimism. Number 2, collective rationalization. The group can rationalize both a belief and rationalize away any negative opinions or expressions. Number 3, belief in inherent morality. Well, if we as a group all agree to it, then it must be moral. No, it doesn't mean it has to be moral. This problem with groupthink, in some cases, think back to World War II, they ignore the ethical or moral consequences of the group decision. Just because as a group thinks it doesn't mean it's right. Number 4, stereotyped views of the outgroup. So anybody that's not in this group, anybody outside the group gets stereotyped. Oh, you are an ABC, XYZ. Everybody in that outgroup believes this, doesn't believe that, whatever it might be. Stereotype the views of the outgroups. Number 5, there's direct pressure on dissenters. So anybody in the group that maybe kind of says, hey, let's think about that. That doesn't sound right to me. Direct pressure on dissenters. Number 6, self-censorship. Kind of a result of number 5. But self-censorship, you're asking yourself, if I push back on this, am I going to get pounded on? Am I going to get, embarrassed? Am I going to get called out? So this self-censorship where you don't say anything, you don't put anything out, maybe you don't post to social media what you really believe because of this fear of direct pressure on dissenters. Number 7, the illusion of unanimity. The opinion that the majority view and the judgments are assumed to be unanimous. And number 8, self-appointed mind guards. These are members that protect the group and the leaders in the group from information that is contradictory or anything that would cause the decision to be questioned or the direction that the group has taken. That is the self-appointed mind guards. So my question to you is does any of these sound familiar to you? Now, I've been in groups where, particularly number 1 and number 2, the illusion of invulnerability. Look, there's 10 of us. We're all very, very smart. We've got 25 years experience each. We've all been down this path before. We've got this. figured out it. We can take this risk because we are the experts. Or number two, collective rationalization. Getting a group of people, particularly really, really smart people, and you can rationalize away anything and everything. So I personally have experienced number one and number two. But if you experienced any of these 8, this is a good list to keep in the back of your mind. If you're building teams or working with teams, working within your organization, or maybe you're part of an industry group, or maybe you're part of a nonprofit even. What is, do we run the risk of groupthink? Now, later on, I'm going to share with you what are some of the steps you can take to counteract groupthink. But first off, the fundamental reason why I'm spending today talking about this is groupthink leads to bad decisions. Why? Because it encourages the members of the group to ignore the possible problems with the decision or discount the opinions of outsiders, people who are not part of the group. When we get too comfortable with each other, when we're too friendly, when we work together for such long periods of time, we get very comfortable and we become insulated from outside influences and, more importantly, outside information. Groupthink can turn into a big problem when you look at organizations that have had all of a sudden failures, big blowouts where they've just totally have tanked. When you really peel away what has happened, groupthink can be pointed to as one of those fundamental things that started the organization down this path. Now, in the cases where I've had some experience being sucked into the groupthink problem, it's especially dangerous when the people within the group are backed by some form of financial rewards and personal advancement. And getting excluded, meaning you're not part of the in-group. This happens with senior executives because you've got stock options or stock grants. And the stock grants are tied to the share price. So now you're doing everything you can to drive the share price. So everybody is making decisions, but the decision gets reinforced by taking steps that you think will result in personal financial reward. But that personal financial reward is everybody in the group is tied to the same reward structure. And I've seen this happen many, many times. And it is can lead to unfathomable disasters if you are not aware of it and you are blind to it. The other is when you've been part of a group that you've had long association, you feel very comfortable with them. You believe that you can almost finish each other's sentences, and you have impeccable trust. So if someone takes a position, you're like, I trust them explicitly, and therefore I'm not going to question them. Even though I might have a little something tickling in the back of my mind, my gut is telling me, ooh, there might be something here. I'm going to trust them because I've got this familiarity. That is one of those end results, because if you're not willing to challenge it, it can become a very, very big problem. So what are some examples of groupthink? I've got 2. One is Swissair. So this is the Swiss national carrier. So this is, the airlines for for Switzerland. Now, this Switzerland airline, Swissair, was so financially stable that people just referred to it as the flying bank, like a Swiss bank account. But then in July of 2001, it suddenly collapsed. Why? Swissair got stuck with groupthink. That was right before they got rid of any industrial technical expertise from its governing board. This decision was regarded by many as the result of insider groupthink. They wanted to reduce anything that threatened cohesiveness of the board of directors. They wanted the board to all think. If there was somebody on the board that didn't agree, that constantly challenged the organization and pushed back, we don't want that on this board. We want cohesiveness. We want agreement and alignment in all things. July 2001, Swiss Air collapsed in a big and very visible in a very major way. The other was in 1999, Major League Baseball. The Umpires Association thought that they could influence the ability to get a new contract. So 54 of the umpires resigned en masse, thinking that they could force new negotiations with Major League Baseball for a new labor agreement. Groupthink, they rationalized the fact that, hey, if 54 of us all resign, they have to listen and they have to renegotiate. They resigned. It ultimately resulted in only 22 umpires actually resigned. Major League Baseball hired entirely new ones. They decertified the union, and that union eventually got replaced by the World Umpires Association. There was group thinking. It was group rationalization. They made an assumption. They were not willing to look at possible downsides or what the reactions would be. And the end result was total disaster. So, those are some examples of the groupthink. Now, the one question that we have to think about here is okay, so what does groupthink do with regards to killing innovation? How does it kill innovation? How does it actually have an impact, right? Well, look, innovation is all about something new. It's unique. It's different. It's challenging. It's about doing something completely different, going in a different direction, creating a new product, taking risks. So as a result, that is counter to groupthink. Groupthink is all about conformity, thinking the same, making the same decisions, going in the same direction. Don't rock the boat. We can all pull this together. Let's all stay in alignment and in agreement. And the problem is if you fall into this group trap think, then this trap turns into an innovation antibody, right? Innovation, new and different, groupthink, conformity. So what happens? The group turns into an innovation antibody. What is an innovation antibody? It blocks new ideas. These are the people within your organization saying, oh, we can't afford to do that. We've tried that before. That will never work. I'm the expert. On and on and on and on. If you're not familiar with the term, you can hop over onto the killerinnovations.com site. I've done literally tens, if not hundreds of shows on innovation antibodies, so you can check that out. So again, groupthink kills innovation. Innovation's new, innovation's different. And as a result, groupthink is about conformity, and it will become the antibody. It'll be the group that goes to kill innovation, because an innovation is an outside group. It is outside of the group think, and therefore puts the innovation, and more fundamentally, the idea behind the innovation at distinct risk. So how do you combat groupthink? How do you combat it? How do you get around it? There's a number of different ways to do that. One is formalize the questioning process. So when a group is working on a decision, when it's looking for feedback, it should expect, it should encourage, it should have a process to formalize the questioning process. It should give, one, permission to the people within the group, but also invite people from outside the group in order to question it, to put their questions forward and to challenge it. And if that's the case, then you can actually bubble this up. And in fact, what you want is objections to be mandated by the group's rules. Therefore, you want people to object. You want people to challenge. You want people to question. You want people to point out issues. You want a formalized questioning process. You want it as part of your fundamental organizational culture. But anytime the group is preparing for key decisions, you want to formalize the questioning process. Item number 1. Another way to combat groupthink is you can institute anonymity, where people don't reveal themselves. They don't have to raise their hand and do it in a meeting, where you may have senior leaders and mid-level managers and frontline staff, and people are uncomfortable raising the issue. So you have to find a way for people to anonymously raise their questions. They need to be able to put up, hey, this is an important thing, and here's my point, but I don't want to do it in a meeting because I just don't feel comfortable with it. So you need to create a process that allows for anonymous submission of questions, concerns, or pushback. Number 4 is bring in outsiders. Bring in outside experts, consultants, trusted advisors, whatever you want to call them. Now, in some cases, people say, well, that's the board of directors. No, because their board members are really insiders. No matter what you may think, board members are insiders. You need true outsiders. Bring in those outsiders and actually encourage them. Make it a condition as part of their participation for them to find the problems, point it out, push back, challenge the team. Now, look, it's frustrating to constantly be having to respond to negative comments or thoughts or questions or whatever, but it'll make it'll make the innovation so much better. And the last but not least is allow extra time. Groupthink really falls into its trap of making bad decisions when there are tight deadlines, when there's a major problem and you got to move quickly. Bake in some extra time. Get some breathing room in here to allow for the challenges, to allow for the questions. Because in some cases, when you are moving very, very quickly, that's when the groupthink, bad decisions from groupthink will happen. So, in conclusion, look, groupthink is a risk when any number of people work together closely. I'm not saying go blow up your team and go hire new people every year, but just be aware. Be aware that if you're part of a team and that team's been together for a long period of time, you may be falling into the trap. So look at the ways to get around that groupthink within your team. Now, group cohesiveness is great because it produces amazing results, but again, it can lead to bad decisions because the group's assumptions, standard operating procedures, leadership never get questioned. They never get put under the microscope. So be careful. If you are part of a group, any kind of a group, be on the lookout for that groupthink. And if you are an innovation leader, be willing to call out groupthink and put in the processes to be able to support the innovation efforts against groupthink conformity. Otherwise, groupthink kills innovation. This week, I would encourage you to take a step back and think about the groups you are involved in. That could be a group of a team that you're a part of, maybe an organization that you're leading, the senior executives within your organization, maybe a trade association, even nonprofits. Go through each of the groups that you are a part of, and then ask yourself go through this list of the symptoms of the groupthink, the 8 symptoms, and see if any of them match any of the groups that you're involved in. If they do, then step up, speak your mind, challenge that group. The result will be much better ideas. Combating groupthink begins with you. This week, I just want to thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to listen to the show, give us feedback. I want to hear your thoughts about the show. topics that you would like for us to cover, you can always drop me an email at phil@killerinnovations.com. Also, favor, help me pay it forward. We've been doing this show now 17 years and would appreciate your help in us paying it forward. We started this show back in 2005 as a result of a request from my early mentor. When I asked him how I could pay him back, he laughed, and Bob Davis said, "You can't pay me back, you have to pay it forward." And that was the impetus for starting the podcast back in 2005. So help me pay it forward. Help me pay it forward with more people by letting others know about the show. Post a comment, whether you get it on iTunes or Google Podcast or YouTube or iHeartRadio or Spotify, you name it, we're on it. Since we've been around for so long, we are on every possible place you can get a podcast at. So let people know, post a comment, give us a review, would greatly appreciate it. Also, I would encourage you to join the Innovators community. You can find it over at theinnovators.community. That's where innovators all hang out. I hang out there. Innovators that I've known, innovators from around the world. In some cases now, groups are being formed by innovators, by regions, or by countries who get together on the site, share, encourage each other, etc. So join the community, join the conversation. Again, it's over at theinnovators.community. Love to see you there. And with that, again, thank you for the time out of your busy schedule. I know your time is incredibly valuable, and I truly appreciate you taking that valuable time and listening to the show. Hopefully you found today's show beneficial. Drop us a note, give us some feedback. Would love that. And with that, we'll talk to you next week. Bye-bye.
Podcasting nonstop since 2005, this has been the Killer Innovation Show on the Innovators Network.